Yourself, Mr. Morgan Freeman.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
The project of which I spoke a moment ago was, of course, Mandela Day. We've touched on it a little while waiting for your arrival with great anticipation. Tell us a little more about it. It followed on, of course, from the 90th birthday celebrations here in London back in 2008.
Yeah. So now we're coming up on his 94th birthday. And, you know, he said that if the world or whomever is going to celebrate his birthday, he doesn't want it to be a day of where everybody takes off and goes shopping or goes fishing or something. He relates it to the fact that he was 67 years in public service. And so he asked the world to give 67 minutes of community service on his birthday as a celebration. So that is what we are promoting.
And there is a list of 67 things you could do, anything from buy groceries for an elderly person to help a job seeker put together a CV, clean up some litter, or at least organise a day. Some very little things, some slightly more time-consuming things, but something pretty much for everybody to do.
Yes, they're not things that are going to strain you that much.
No, I grant you. Yeah.
Right.
But they are things that will make a little difference to somebody else. That's the point. And of course,
and to you.
And to you as well. Yeah.
Yes,
of course.
We always feel better when we do something good for someone else.
You're absolutely right. And I want to ask you what he's like as a man, but I'm conscious that's quite a banal question. Most of us, of course, don't have the privilege to know him. Is he as inspirational as he seems, as you expect?
I don't think of Mandela as being himself inspirational. It's his life.
Yeah. The story.
Yeah, that's very inspirational. Things that he has accomplished, his thinking processes, I think those are all very inspirational. You know.
And you played him, of course. That's
yes,
the really sort of
that was
super link.
Great fun.
In Invictus. Was it great? Is that the only time you've played a living person, Morgan? That's not a fair question. You played a lot of roles. I don't expect you to have a mental roller file.
No. I did play a living person who was on the set while I was actually filming it. And he was a high school principal.
Okay.
Named Joe Clark. And the movie was Lean on Me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was not a one-off then to play Mr. Mandela, but obviously a little better known than Mr. Clark.
Yeah, quite a bit.
How did he find it? If you have to pick the actor to play you in a movie, I think the temptation is to go for someone who's perhaps a little more physically impressive. Nelson Mandela must have been pretty chuffed when they came up with the most recognisable and perhaps imposing presences in Hollywood. You don't look much like him.
Well, actually, I do you
think? I mean, you're much bigger than him.
There was a photograph of he and I sitting together.
Yes.
And if you see that photograph, you can tell. But it was a resemblance. It could be of the same family.
Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he felt the same?
Well, I don't know if he felt that at all. But the reason they came up with me to play the part was because he asked me.
Oh, really?
He asked for me, yes.
Oh, that's quite a compliment, isn't it? How did you deal with that? We got a request for you from Nelson Mandela. You say, what do you want me to do?
I'm probably one of the most arrogant people you're ever going to meet.
Nonsense. So you just took it in your stride? Yeah, of course.
Well,
Nelson Mandela wants to play me. I'll squeeze him in.
Thought I could do it.
You're here to promote Batman as well. I'm going to put on my blog and website the details of Mandela Day and indeed that full list of the 67 things people can do. I can't. How long have you been in England? Morgan, if you don't
overnight.
Mind. Right. How many interviews have you done already, if you don't mind me asking?
This is it.
Is it? Because there's a question you're going to get asked a lot. You know that. And it's
true.
about an advert that's running in this country and has been running for quite some time, where the announcement is, I am more than Freeman. I can't believe I'm asking this. I've only got 15 minutes with you, but what's the story there? Because it's not you doing it.
Well, no, it isn't me doing it. But the people who I met them this morning.
Right.
The people who are doing it got permission. Long before. Is it all right if we do this? If we pay you? And I said certainly. So It's, everybody's happy.
It's not the hardest day's work you've ever done in your life, then, is it? You get the check simply because they've made a pun on your name and found someone with a similarly deep
voice. Yeah. Hey.
Oh, it's nice work if you can get it.
It works.
Isn't it? And it does. And it's one of those things that's sort of got under the skin of the country. Everybody.
They were telling me that.
Well, this is why I was cautious of asking you the question in case you'd already asked it several hundred times. So I'll be the first, and everybody else now will no doubt try. You can refer them to the podcast of this program if you get bored of telling them the answer to that question. Do you like London? Is it a city you know well?
Oh, yes. I love London. I was here first and for a good while. Back in 1990, 1991 or something like that, Kevin Costner and I were doing Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and I was here for a good while. And so
it was a long shoot, that wasn't it?
Yeah,
the shoot was almost as long as the song stayed at the top of the pop charts. The Bryan Adams song after I was there for about 40 weeks, but I think you were filming in Britain for about 20 years. Was it that
it must have been close to that. Yeah, we were here for quite a while.
And you're here now by for the premiere of Batman. How many of the films have you been in now?
I have no idea.
You've lost not how many films, how many Batman films?
Oh well, this is the third in a trilogy. So so I was in all three.
You've returned to the role.
Yeah.
Is it fun to make something like that? Because we watch
it is actually. Well, it's fun to work. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. If,
sure.
You like what you're doing. You like doing it. Every movie I make, almost about 98%, I thoroughly enjoy working on. And this has been a really good run, a good fun go.
Do you have a master plan when you're selecting projects? Because you've pretty much done everything. So do you think, well, I've just done something quite serious, I will now do something quite lighthearted, or I've just done something that paid a fortune, I'll now do something a little more left field or arty, or do you just take each project as it comes?
I just take each project as it comes, whatever it is. If it interests me, if it's a good story, good part, fabulous director, and it's worth doing. I just don't like doing something I've already done.
Okay. And they keep on coming. No shortage. Your doormat is not in danger anytime soon of being unadorned by scripts.
I certainly hope not.
But it's not just acting. I mean, we've mentioned Nelson Mandela. Can I just turn you a little closer to your own home back in the States with an election looming? Barack Obama, obviously an incredibly inspirational figure. His election significant for all sorts of reasons.
All sorts of reasons, Lord.
And yet, I know you're very informed, if you forgive me for saying so, on why perhaps he hasn't managed to achieve as much as was hoped when he first came to power.
Everybody's informed about why he hasn't been able to achieve.
Well, I learned from reading an interview with you some of the names involved, some of the people. This guy Mitch McConnell, who'd made
Mitch McConnell, John Boehner. See, the stated aim of the party when he came into office, the stated aim of the Republican Party, voiced publicly, to do everything possible to see to it that Barack Obama only served one term. That means they're not going to cooperate with him on anything.
Even if it's good for America, even if it's good for them.
Yeah. So, those of us thinking like me think, well, then it doesn't matter what happens to the country for these 4 years. They're not going to be of any help. So that's what we're up against. And I say we because I mean me and my president.
You do. And how engaged with the Democrats were you pre-Obama? Is it? I mean, clearly your politics are democratic.
I'm not a Democrat.
You're not. Oh, okay.
I'm a registered independent.
Okay, but you support this president. Right. This president is a president you support.
I support this president.
How much of that is to do with ethnicity? How much of that is? I mean, none at all. None. If he was green, you'd still think he was the man.
Yeah.
How much of a story do you think his ethnicity was in the last election? I mean, in this country, I took calls from young black guys who, one started crying because he said, I never thought this day would come, and it was on the other side of the Atlantic. So presumably in America, that was an even more incredible
more incredible. I think the largest portion of the country thought that we have really come into our own as a nation. If we can elect this young man as president. However, once done, all kinds of things crawl out from under rocks. So then you get to see another side of the.
It's interesting you say that, because it feels less like mission accomplished now towards the end of his first term than perhaps it did on the night of his actual election, doesn't it? In terms of that social progress.
Right, exactly. And so now we'll see, come November, what kind of nation we are. I mean, do the people run the country, or can it be bought? Because that's what we're up against.
You think so? It comes down to that.
I know it. It's all about money now.
You know, I've interviewed two of the people in the public eye who I've admired for the longest time in the last 2 days, by complete coincidence, and both you and the singer George Michael have made exactly the same point about American politics.
Really?
Yes, he was talking about Fox News buying the post-Iraq election for George W. Bush and seeing the insidiousness of that situation. And you believe that come November, the vested interests on the right of your country will be writing checks in the hope of securing the White House.
They are writing checks.
No, but you don't just mean political donations. You mean media ownership.
Media ownership, super PACs. Because with the Political Action Committee, you can give them any amount of money. And since the Supreme Court has said that even corporations are people, that releases them to give any amount of money, and that's where all the money is.
I sense a certain nervousness, Morgan, in terms of the result. You don't think by any stretch of the imagination it's a foregone conclusion then? You think your man might have a big fight on his hands?
Yeah. I'm deathly afraid that there's a big fight coming up, yeah. It's going to be kind of close. I don't know how he could possibly lose, but then he could.
He could. What does a man like you do with your sort of profile, your political engagement, your interest, your success, your wealth, of course, to show support for a president, for a politician? How do you what do you turn up with?
Speak up
at every opportunity, and name names like the senators who've expressed their desire to stymie anything that could be described as a success.
Yes, senators, congressmen, all of those people who have stood up on the opposite side of Barack Obama and said, we don't like you and we're not going to do anything to help you, and we're going to do everything we can to get rid of you.
I'm, forgive me for saying this, a little younger than you. And I find myself getting increasingly cynical with politics and increasingly wondering whether or not anybody anywhere can make any difference. How do you retain your optimism and your belief that you actually can help create an improved situation?
I don't know if I believe I can. I just hope I can.
That's beautifully put, isn't it? That's kind of what gets us all out of bed in the morning, I hope. It really is. We should, and the time flies by, we should mention, of course, the new film. I wonder what it was like in the trilogy to return to work after the tragic passing of Heath Ledger. That presumably is a little out of the ordinary, even for Hollywood standards.
It is a bit out of the ordinary, we would say. However, Heath's death doesn't surface. We don't talk about it. It isn't part of the equation at all. We've mourned Heath, and that's done. So we just move on.
And I suppose it is like any other workplace losing a cherished colleague. You don't close down the factory or the office or the business as a result.
Precisely.
I wish I could have you for longer, Mr. Freeman. I really do. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. I hope you enjoy your stay in London. I truly do.
I'm sure too. It's such a short stay.
It's an even shorter interview. I hope you don't end up frustrated by the number of people asking you about certain advertisements. I'm delighted to have covered rather more territory.
It's been a pleasure,
Thank
truly.
you very much indeed. Morgan Freeman.